In this video, we'll be walking through some percent equations. We have 15 is 30% of what number? So is means equals, of means multiply, and we're going to write 30% as a decimal when we put it into an equation. So I'll start right out. I'll write 15, and instead of is, I write equals. 30 as a decimal, you move the decimal point to the left 2 places. That's 0.30 of what number? So times, I'll use n for the what number, the unknown. Now to solve this equation, you divide each side by this coefficient, by this number that's multiplied by the variable, 0.30. So 15 divided by 0.30. Over on the right-hand side, 0.3 divided by 0.3 is just 1, and that's good. We have just one n left over. And then 15 divided by 0.3, that equals 50. So I'll write here 50 equals n. So I could say 15 is 30% of 50. Notice that we converted the percent into a decimal notation to put it into an equation. So over here, we're going to solve for a percent. We're going to get a decimal notation, and then we'll convert it back to percent notation. 50 is what percent of 80? So again, is means equals. So I'll say 50 equals what percent? I'll use P to represent the percent. Of means times, so I'll say times 80. Now I'm going to divide each side by 80 to get P by itself. So I'll show that. Divide this by 80 and divide this by 80. Over here, 80 divided by 80 is just 1. That's good because then we just have P times 1, or just P left. And then 50 divided by 80 is, let's change the colors here, is 0.625. Now that's the percent in decimal form. So note that this is in decimal form. I'll put a little note here. This is in decimal form because the percent is always in decimal notation in the equation. Just like we put it into decimal notation to put it into this equation, we're going to have to take it out of decimal notation to make it a percent. So to turn that in, to convert that from decimal notation to percent notation, you take the decimal point and move it 2 places to the right now. So that becomes 62.5%. Now I attach that percent sign. So I can finish this equation and say 50 is 62.5% of 80. Or another way to read that is 50 is some portion of 80. It's not 100%. It's not a low 20% or something. It's a little bit above 50%. 50 equals 62.5% of 80. So some portion of 80. All right, I hope that helps.